You got a sign-in sheet?
Bob, can we get a sign-in sheet on that?
Sign it back.
Okay. All right, we're going to call the June 14th, 2018 Finance Committee meeting to order. Bob, take it away.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Can we just do quickly introductions, Con?
Kyle McKesty, School Board.
Ron Fraser, Superintendent.
Matt Frederickson, IT.
Mark Bilex, School Board Member.
Jerry Rupp, School Board.
Bob Brown, Director of Business Administration.
Joe Vidal, School Board.
And Black School Board.
Zach Williard, PFM.
Mary McKee, School Board.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll try to go through this as efficiently as possible. First thing I want to know is we have a big meeting on July 12th that involves a lot of discussion regarding our food service program. I want to either cancel it before we have it, or I want 8 board members there. So I just want to know if people know on their schedule if they're going to be available on July 12th or not. Because I'm going to have staff, corporate staff from Chartwell's there, and we're going to be talking about some issues about financing the food service, which is big issues that I don't want it to be you know, if we only have 5 board members or 4 board members, I would say 1 board member would change the discussion greatly. So I would like to know if you could email me back next week, I guess that would be good, and then we could do that or something.
Can you please send out, Robert, can you please send out the meeting invite for July 12th?
Yep.
So you can track the, or have whoever, so we can track the accept and decline. I ask every board member to not just automatically accept it, but actually look at it in terms of your calendar and either accept it or deny it.
This evening, Zach Williams is with us. As you know, interest rates are going up. The Federal Reserve moved yesterday. It says they're going to move. They can move up 2 or 3 more times this year. And we have variable rate debt. And Zach is here to show you some concepts and items regarding that. And we do have some slides on it. He is handing out a presentation that he's going to be going from. I do have slides on here for the community to all look at as we go through this.
Okay. Thank you. So going back to 2004, I wasn't here. I think, our firm was. You entered into the series of 2004, which is a variable rate loan bond issue. Okay, it was through a pooled program. The thought was at the time, it had great rates. It's had great rates ever since then. We'll talk about that here in a second. The bonds were callable at any time. So part of the plan was that through the years, we would always kind of report back and see if there's ever the right time to go ahead and put a fixed interest rate on it, okay? So through the years, I think we've averaged, well below 2%. It saved the district millions of dollars in interest over that time. But I think, we're getting closer to a point where it might make sense to go ahead and put fixed rates on the remaining principal balance here and kind of take the interest rate risk off the table. It's worked very well through the years, but now might be the time to end this run. I think the general market, even if you don't really pay attention to the market that much, you kind of know that rates are going up. One of the key items here is that fixed rates are still relatively low, and I'll show you that here in a second. So if you flip to page 1, the interest rate chart, we always show you it's the same one. The only difference is on the bottom half, you'll notice, Bob, maybe flip to the next one. Yeah. On the bottom half, we added a red line. Okay, the red line is the variable rate index that these bonds follow, these tax-exempt bonds. So you'll notice you can basically see when the Fed has increased, here in the last, 18 months, you can see the little tick ups. And then you can see tax reform, okay, right there at the beginning of 2018, that's that blip, the first one. And then you actually see tax season right after that, okay. Fed raising rates yesterday, this index bumped up about another 20 basis points or 0.2%. Okay, so that red line did go up a little bit here in the last 24 hours. So, and if you look at the top half, the fixed rates that we would use to get rid of the variable rate mode, they've stayed, they've gone up a little bit, but they've stayed relatively, the same. They're still at historically low levels. So that's kind of what's creating this, opportunity, we'll call Page 2 is just to put some verbiage to all this. I don't think we need to hit on all these. If you look under the number 3 there, it says the all-in rate is approximately at 210. So your rate right now is somewhere between the 210 and the 230. That's where it's been fluctuating, okay? In the budget, you have about 4% there, okay? So you've always budgeted conservatively, which is something that we love to do, and we've been telling you to do that. And Bob actually listens, a lot of districts don't, okay? So you've always been, fairly safe in that regard. And then just also to point out, it says the all-in historic average rate since 2004 was a 135. So again, that's well below any fixed rates that you've had since that time. So again, performed very well. The potential fixed rate refunding, okay? So we're gonna go out and just do this like we would do any other bond issue that we do with the district, where we go, we issue through a competitive internet auction, okay? And we would take out the variable rate debt and put fixed rates on it. Those rates will remain constant through the maturity, just like the rest of your debt. So this was the one piece of debt that you've had through the years that did have a floating rate on it, all right? So we would be getting rid of that, okay? So any questions about the general kind of thought process here?
The variable rate debt is something that gets bid out weekly, correct?
Yeah, this rate resets every week.
It resets every week,
Right.
and it's based on Fed funds rate, tracks that, as opposed to long-term rates track a longer-term index. So you hear the Federal Reserve saying that they're going to increase rates another 2 or 3 times. That number is going to pump up another 20 basis points or so every time. So if we come back to you in 9 months, you may not have this opportunity anymore because rates are going to have to move up. So I have talked to Andy and Mark about this, and Mark is in the market more than anyone. And Mark, why don't you tell them what you thought?
My thoughts were simple. Even I think there's a short-term increase in what our debt service is for this bond, right, with the refinancing. But what we're doing is we're removing interest rate risk from it, which is significant right now. So everybody, you don't have to be a financial professional to know, as Zach said, that interest rate risk is a real thing that we're right in the middle of, and it's one of the biggest risks we have. So I think it's a smart move, and I think we should move forward with it.
Everyone go with that? Now let's just get the time here real quick, Zach. You need a notice to proceed next week, or can we wait until?
Well, we can move as fast or as slow as you want. If you want to do it next week, that's perfectly fine. We can. Do you have a July meeting?
Yeah.
We do July 19th.
We can come back July 9th.
We have a meeting next week.
Yeah, can you put it
Yeah,
together?
See, I got to get bond counsel and all that.
Yeah, you can put the, kind of the go-ahead resolution on next
Can you
week.
send me that?
I can send you, yeah, simple motion.
Will you look put that in?
I'm good with it, Mark, you good with it?
Yeah.
Gary, you
Do
good?
it.
And then just like everything else, what that does
Let's
is,
make it explicit, because we can't, we're not going to put it on the agenda. It can't be consent, put it on explicit.
Sure.
Sure.
It's fine.
and then what that does is it lets us start doing all the legwork, with Bob, credit rating, all those things, so we can come back to July 19, and pass the parameters resolution. Okay? Remember how we've done that the last kind of.
So I'm not quite understanding. What are you going to present next week?
So next week, I think you're asking if you can authorize us to proceed,
Yeah.
Okay.
team to proceed.
That's fine.
So that would be
Can we
that.
do that tonight, or is that got to be before?
In fact,
Yeah, for the record, Kyle McCassie had to leave.
Oh, she's not out.
So,
yeah, I'm good with next week's. good.
Okay, now I can't be here next week, but
I don't think we need to
You
do
will dial it. You don't need to contract, please don't.
I'm on Borough Council, and we have police chief interviews that night at 7 p.m.
Well, good luck.
So we can either have somebody here, or we can talk about it.
Yeah.
What we need to do. But we can get done. And then we'll be back at the July meeting, like we've done for all the, past bond issues. That'll be where bond council presents the formal resolution, okay? Which will outline the fact that we're gonna take the variable rate debt, put fixed rates on it, go through the normal process. Nothing's gonna be different about this. And then, we will probably be able to price the bond, assuming the market's still cooperative. I'd say 2 weeks after that. That would be, about 6 weeks from now.
And we have all the official statement stuff, you're fine.
We'll probably need to update all that.
Well, the budget, I guess.
Yeah. We'll probably
But our
actually,
financials are good.
Yeah.
Well,
there'll be
we'll
some
work on that.
Yep.
Okay, you guys good?
Good. Thanks.
Zach, this is your shortest meeting ever.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care. Be safe.
Thank
Drive
you.
home.
Yeah, thank you.
Board agenda items. As you know, for the last 3 years, we've been operating a propane fleet of buses. The previous 3 years, we purchased our propane through Roads Energy. They were the ones that won the first bid that included putting in the fueling stations, and they were also supplying the gas. So this is our first propane fuel bid that we are going to award. Mr. Rowe helped put the specifications together. We looked at 3 different pricing models. One 12-month blended, so that means you pay the same rate over the 12 months. Then we looked at fixed for months of December, January, and February, because of course in the winter, the cost of propane is higher than the other time. The differential is also higher when you look at the pricing. So we thought if we fix that and then we floated the rest, it might be the better way to look at it. And then we did fixed pricing, looking at all the different, basically seasons of the year and the pricing variances. And we analyzed that, and I put that together. If anyone really wants to sit down with me, I will tell you that we looked at the fixed price method, and then I compared everything against that. And what we did for the floating months, we looked at that, determined what the winter utilization was, and then went back, got their differentials, which is the add-on to it, and then we determined what the commodity price needed to be to even match the full year fixed. When we looked at the commodity price, it was so low, we were sure that we would be better to fix everything that we're showing here and not float anything. And we also looked, and this was easy, the pricing for those periods of time, although it was close to these numbers, it was still above those numbers when we looked at the actual utilization. So what we're recommending is that we take the full fixed price. You'll see it's $14.68, $3.50, and $3.12. You'll say, wow, that's inverted. You think that it's cheaper closer up. Well, the market's telling us that propane is probably going to be getting a little cheaper. Understand that that could change greatly, but the company that bid this is locked it in already. So I am very comfortable with this. I want to show you that our estimated gallons is 460,000, and the all-in price would be 527 the first year. You go down and look at that. I also want to tell you that we were able to file a excise tax refund. So we fill out the form, and we get 50 cents on the gallon back. So our effective price is just over 50 cents per gallon. Mark had asked me if I look at the savings, and I will tell you the savings are much more complex than this, but I do believe with that price, when you think of what diesel is for school districts, that's probably at $2.50 to $2.60. The BTU level here is about 65% of diesel, so there is a takeout, but I will tell you that we are saving money by doing this and keeping a cleaner environment.
It just amazes me that the actual fuel cost is only like 5% of the contract. It's amazing.
What I'd like to do is have you guys say, yep, you're good with this, going with the full fix. Why take any risk?
Any objections to that? The 5 board members have left the room. Can you just touch on Andy Rose?
Yes. I will tell you, when we first got into this, when Jack had left, the message that we had gotten, or what we were thinking about, was that because we didn't actually purchase the fuel, but because we didn't actually use the fuel, because it was for a student who uses the fuel, and that's the tax consequences is why we purchased the fuel. We were under the impression that we could not file for the 50 cents a gallon. Andy researched it more. The IRS actually came in and audited us before to give us a license to be able to get this. And now we're getting it. It's a huge deal. I will tell you that the federal government has to renew it every year or two. And we just got $225,000 in recently because they had to renew it retroactively, so we were holding on to money. So going forward, we're not positive we're going to get it, but they've been renewing it every year.
So that's really significant. So saving the district $690,000 over 3 years from the initiative that Andy took, not to discount anything you were doing, Bob, but I think my understanding is Andy really jumped on this and made it happen. So it's
Andy took this propane thing and he really wanted to learn about it, so yeah, he did good.
Can we, isn't that something we should invite him to the next board meeting when we present this and just give him a little bit of recognition?
A phone call he'd be happy with. He really doesn't like.
He doesn't want to. It hasn't worked out well for him before, so he doesn't want to do it. It's not good recognition for him to come to board meetings in the
All right.
evening. Really.
I think a phone call to him would be wonderful.
Okay.
If he'd hear from someone. Okay,
So now, if you lock this in, this is off the plane for a number of reasons.
yes.
That's a good reason.
Yeah. Well, we were at $1.35, $1.31 the first 2 years. This year we were down, it might have been, it's $1.10 or $1.06. So these numbers to me. And look at what's going on with gas prices. I mean, you're comparing this to these.
Go down, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we got what we need on that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
In renewal of insurances, I will tell you that, you can look at this, our insurance cost for general, out of the general fund is 520 down, almost $10,000, $9,500. This workers' comp, I will tell you, has gone up by $33,000. That's still quite a low number compared to what it could be. I will tell you that this is a function of payroll. I take 0.5% from every dollar that we pay employees, just like a retirement rate. And we put it to the side, and that's what we pay this out for. I will tell you that that number is wrong. I may have to move up that percentage to 0.55% in the future years. But this is covered through the self-insurance fund. Number of savings that I have from previous workers' comp. This again is fully insured. It's not retrospective, so we don't get any benefit for a good year. Once these numbers, remember the year I went to retrospective, this number jumped up to like $850,000 they wanted for a fully insured program. If that happens again, we'll go back into retrospective. Okay. You got two, I'm sorry.
So I think you should know that our broker shops these, and it's represented by the different insurance companies that are covering each category.
Yes, I could show you all the applications we fill out for quotes. I am particular with the PSDA program. It's written specifically for school districts. So I am particular with that, but we always are vetting that to make sure they're not paying the premium on that.
Has there been any chance to revisit the increase in retainage, what we retain in terms of our special education? That premium, that our retainage, the amount we're responsible for initially, jumped a few years ago from 20 to 50,000.
Yes, I think that coverage in my mind has gone away. I mean, I don't think anyone's purchasing it anymore. That's a non-monetary where every $10,000 they would support our legal costs. But then they wanted to jump it up and make it go to 50,000 as a deductible.
Right.
So it was so out of line.
I just wonder if that was.
Yes, my understanding is it's not getting better.
So the last item on that, Bob, unless you have something, is you've heard me talk about RFPs for all professional services. And we started an RFP process for insurance brokers last year. The committee consisted of myself, Denise, and Wendy. We received the responses to the RFPs. We were attempting to schedule an interviews, and it never came together. So we want to begin that process again in July. We're going to need another, committee person or a couple committee people. So if you're interested, just let Bob know, I guess, and then Andy and I work through it, right? Andy, is that good?
Let me get on the box on that too, which was, if we could actually have members of the public who are experienced in the realm, serve in that realm too, which was, if they're not competing in that space and they're knowledgeable in that space, I just throw it out as a question.
I think it's great. I think it's how do we, we'd had to put
How do
a
you
message out too. We had to put a message out to the community. It was difficult enough to get 3 board members.
I agree. I agree.
I love the idea of public input. I don't know,
I think I've heard it before.
for me. Yeah. If we can come up with some way to do it, I'm all for it. Have an insurance executive that sit to give us some insight.
There's not, yeah, I mean,
She's not, of course.
there's not, I mean, Wendy is not, this was not Wendy's space, but she was at least tangential to it.
Yeah.
You know,
I think it's good. We can talk about it. Let's see who from the board is interested first and then go from there. Because I guess we can have an even number, but it'd be best to have an odd number.
well, I'll be interested to know who we're thinking of soliciting and seeing if they're all intending to respond.
I have 4 people that have responded already. Now, if we're going to throw them out, that's up to you.
I think we just want to ask them to issue new RFP, see if they're interested. I don't know if we want to, I don't know. We'll
We're
talk.
going to do another RFP.
Why don't we talk about it? Is that okay? Can we talk about it offline, me and Andy and Bob?
Yep, I'm good with that. Okay, these are optional insurances, and Mark, I did speak to Rob today about it. And these are becoming more prevalent. These are not included in the current proposals. Law enforcement liability will pay sums that are become legally obligated to read that. But it is law enforcement is anyone that is armed with a handgun or a phaser. And an injury would occur. We don't employ anyone that is armed or has a phaser. Although we do have a taser. Am I saying?
Mr. Scott.
It's a long day.
It's getting like it.
But we do have resource officers that are armed. If
They're not.
if there is an event in our schools, Rob believes we would probably be defending anything that happens there, even though they're not our employee. He would say that could be something that he would support us purchasing. With everything going on now with police officers and how they're being, everything that is happening, that suits are there, he said that he could see that being something that we could consider.
Can you, for a term, can you go back to him and have him review the contracts with our police departments? Because our police officers are employees of the township. They're not employees of ours, and we pay the township a fee to have an officer armed. If we got approval from a judge to have a police force, we'd be in the space, but we're not.
Again,
Read the contract, because because the second thing, they're not our resource officers, they're school resource officers assigned there by the state, by the police department, under an agreement with us. If we call for responding officers and 2 more officers show up and they take someone, they're not ours either.
I think the question even goes, what's the coverage look like? Because if it covers legal fees, it may be worth it, because we're going to be named in the suit anyway. If it only covers, some sustained injuries, then it probably isn't worth it. Right?
Okay. I'm gonna,
I mean, like,
what I'm probably gonna do is get Mary and him to talk, us 3 to talk about it, to make sure that he has the proper information. I have a handout out here if you guys want to read about it. That's a handout that you get, but it's not gonna help you out anymore.
Yeah.
Drones, we have 2 drones, and they're being used. This would, right now, we are covered under general liability. Our umbrella liability would limit our coverage to $1 million, and that would cost $606. Again, we do have drones in the air that is do things with. And Rob said that would be something that you consider. But we are covered up to a limit, but not under our umbrella policy. Any there?
That's our
I thought it was a million.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I got to go back to the law enforcement liability. This handout says law enforcement legal liability occurrence form, unarmed personnel only. Unarmed. What it says. unnamed. Am I reading that? No, unarmed. So we want to get some clarification on that.
The occurrence for unarmed, I'm sorry.
Because we read to find out from Rob, that includes our security officer.
She told me, and I'll show you the email.
Who should?
Mary from basically, no.
Oh.
I will talk to her about that.
Now, let's talk to Rob.
Yep, I will do it all. Okay. And we can add these at any time. This isn't something that we have to add right away. Violent response expense, I understand that should something happen to one of our schools, everything from grievance counselors and all that type of thing, media experts and things like that, are things, costs that you would incur for something like that. This is something that's becoming more prevalent to get more funds available should something happen. You can self-insure this, of course, too. I mean, if something like that would happen, you have to spend it through the general fund. But that isn't a huge amount of money. I just thought it would never be necessary. You know what? I think I'm going to bring this up a little at another time. Just there's so many issues, and I can tell everybody is
Okay.
not ready.
What was the issue?
Better decisions.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Well, I think we have questions. I think we have questions on this. So,
This is just increasing violent response expense. Where's you can read about that also.
I mean, I think ultimately what I'd like to hear when you do come back with it is, you guys run this district. What's your opinion of? I mean, these are very small numbers. They're all very, very important. But as you guys assess our overall safety plans and things that support that, I'd be inclined to support any recommendation you guys made on numbers like this.
Okay.
You guys tell us as far as I'm concerned.
I'm good with that. Go ahead. Committed fund balances is the same stuff we approve each year. Only thing I took off here is the revenue stabilization because we no longer have the money in there to do that. So I took it off. I'm not sure we'd be reestablishing it anyway. These are our depositories. They're the same as last year. We're not planning on making any moves. Good with that? These are the senior class trips and the junior prom. North junior prom is Princeton High, as it always been. The South junior prom is going now, they're changing to go to the Sheraton at Valley Forge. There is a memo from Buff in your board docs that you can read, substantiation why the administration of South wanted to do that. And then the senior trips are the same thing as we have in the past.
same cost for Sheraton and Princeton. Same cost.
If you read this, they will tell you that they thought that Princeton High was getting more expensive and that they feel is better value at and they've also got some other issues at Princeton High.
Okay.
That's all in the memo from Buff. Okay?
Yep.
Music bid, Jerry, this is the same thing we've talked about before, and if you remember the timpanis that you talked about at length. The bid shows it's for 400.
And we all remember that, so you don't have to do it again.
They were on with the pianos finally.
What was that about?
This bid shows it being a bid for $400,000. Did I do something wrong?
No.
Oh, I'm having a flashback. $400,000. That is because they wanted to get a price for almost everything on the bid list. They have no intention of purchasing all that. This is a direct result of, I think, me telling them they have to bid this.
Okay, the key thing here is, that's how much the total amount of the bid list is, but you're only looking to spend $100,000.
Yes.
Thanks.
Go ahead. Jared,
That's
if I
their
would have
budget.
said that, you would have been all over me.
That's their budget, they're not to exceed that.
Right.
Unless they have the budget transfers into it.
Okay.
Great.
Someday I trust wouldn't do that.
Donation from Richborough School Association, 62, 20,
That's the elementary school.
What?
That's the elementary.
Yeah. And then Plain County H, that was the borrowing of $43,000, that's putting.
43 million.
$43 million.
40,000.
$43 million. That is filing we're going to do with Plain County just to get it in there so that they can, here's a lease number. I'm not sure we're going to ever get a lease number for Wrightstown, but the other two, I think we already have. So I think that's it. And I went through that really fast.
You did great.
Yeah.
You covered everything that needed to be covered. All right. Any questions? Any other comments? Joe? No? Okay. Without objection, we'll adjourn.